Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
January 18th, 2021. Could we start with roll call, please?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Let's start with our online participant, Director Matthews.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Director Bradford.
Here.
Director Vasquez.
Here.
Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Director Hasty.
Here.
Director Blazer.
Here.
And Director Fletcher.
Great.
Absent at the moment, but I know he's here.
Yep. Thank you. So now let's stand and I'll lead us in the pledge. Salute and pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Next up is public comment.
Good morning. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Directors on any subject matter that is not on the meeting agenda and is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of public time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of a video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. And to ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. We do have one public comment in the room, sir. Mr. Charles Sharp.
Morning, Charles.
Who the guest?
Hello, good morning. Charles Sharp, Oregon House. I hope everyone is having a good day. You might be expecting me to comment about the governance of a certain somewhat dysfunctional foothill water district. Not so. Or maybe the governance of the Yuba-Water Agency and the dual roles of the directors and the county supervisors. Again, not so. I am here this morning about the disbanding of the History Ad Hoc Committee. Before the chaos of COVID-19, I was fortunate enough to have attended several of the committee meetings. I'm sad to see it go, but I understand that the videos are being made of people's recollections. This will form the basis of any factual story about Yuba Water. Yuba Water Agency is one of the best things going for the people of Yuba County. Educating people about the agency starts with the history. My understanding of the agency's history comes from the wonderful 1966 Yuba County Water Agency picture book, my own involvement with the agency, and on occasion, some gracious history lessons from Director Hasty at board meetings. Thank you. The agency should be sparing no effort to educate the people of Yuba County about what an incredible resource they have with the Yuba Water Agency. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, do we have any additional public comment at this time?
See none online, sir.
Okay, great. So with that, we'll move to the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda or board comment or discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Let's start with Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Bradford.
Yes.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Director Hasty.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Next, we will move on to discussion items. First up is item 5, consider adoption of resolution 2022-01, adopting CEQA mitigated negative declaration for the Narrows 2 generator backup GSU transformer concrete pad project, making CEQA findings, approving the project, and approving related action items. So we have Jacob this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jacob Vandermeer, the Environmental Compliance Officer. Thank you for having me. So as Jim just said, the intent of this agenda item is to consider adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and associated mitigation monitoring and reporting program that was developed for this project. The project name is a mouthful, I'm aware. There was a bit of strategy behind it. So this is a project to construct a concrete pad on which to place a backup GSU transformer. The backup GSU transformer is currently our existing GSU. It's a 1969 vintage and it's ready to be replaced. The project also involves extending power from an existing overhead line to the concrete pad for testing and maintenance of the backup GSU. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, an initial study and a mitigated negative declaration was prepared to evaluate the environmental impact of the project. The initial study determined that with mitigation incorporated and implemented, the project would have no significant environmental impact. The initial study and mitigated negative declaration went out for a 30-day public review period from December 8th to January 6th, during which only one comment was received. This was just a standard comment letter from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board, acknowledging that they'd received and reviewed the mitigated negative declaration. No response was needed. No other comments were received. So assuming that today you guys decide to adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program, I will file a state clearinghouse notice of determination with the Yuba County clerk right across the hall. I'm hoping and planning that that's what you guys do. So I'm here today so I can walk across the hall and file it. And then at this time, if there's any questions about the project or the CEQA process that was involved, I'm more than happy to answer those now.
Okay, Charlie, looks like you've got a question.
Yeah, I know we're putting it up there and lines to test it. If we ever needed it, I assume we'd have to move it down to the dam or close to the generator. I was wondering if you looked at placing the pad where you wouldn't have to move it.
It was thought about. There's not a whole lot of room down there, but you are correct. It would need to be moved from the pad at the top of the hill down to the powerhouse. But even with that slight inconvenience, right now it's taking us almost 18 months to acquire a new GSU. So having one on standby, on site, nearby is still hugely advantageous.
Very good. Just curious.
Thank you, Charlie. I had the same question.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Get who that was, Jim, on the first and the second.
I had Director Hasty first, Fletcher second.
Yep. Okay. And are there any public comments on this item? Okay. Seeing none, any additional board comments or questions? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you very much. Let's start with Director Fuhrer,
Yes.
Director Blazier,
Yes.
Director Vasquez,
Yes.
Director Hasty,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Bradford,
Yes.
and Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, next up we have item 6, consider adoption of resolution 2022-03, adopting the 2021 Yuba County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ryan McNally, Director of Water Resources and Flood Risk Reduction here for the agency. So for your consideration this morning is a resolution to adopt the water agency's annex for the 2021 Yuba County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan update. So this was recently adopted by the Board of Supervisors on January 11th. And so this piece is just Yuba Water's piece of that, or the chapter that represents, the agency in that plan. And so what needs to happen is there's a group of stakeholders out there, that the water agency is one of them, but there's also the city of Marysville, city of Wheatland, BVID, Marysville Levy Commission, the reclamation districts. There's a number of stakeholders. And for each of those stakeholders to be eligible for disaster or grant funding from FEMA or Cal OES, they need to adopt a resolution, basically signing on to this hazard mitigation update. And so, and actually this is going to be the first step in what staff is planning to apply for a notice of intent for grant funding for potentially the ARC spillway, further down the road. So although that's a process that we're considering, this will be the first step in that.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. Any comment from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a first from Supervisor Fletcher, or from Director Fletcher, and a second from Director Vasquez. Roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you very much. Let's start with Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Bradford,
Yes.
Director Fuhrer,
Yes.
Director Fletcher,
Yes.
Director Hasty,
Yes.
Director Vasquez,
Yes.
and Director Blazer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan. Okay, next up is item 7, chair appointments of board members to serve on standing committees and certain professional associations. Recommended appointments are listed in the body of the agenda item to include a recommendation to disband all ad hoc committees. So just want to thank everyone for their input, all the directors on what committees, any changes that they like to see as far as any committees they'd like to maybe stop serving on or any committees they'd like to serve on. I think for the most part, I was able to accommodate all of those requests and at the same time not make any major changes, which I think can be important. So anyway, with that, you've seen the recommendations that I put forward. So are there any questions or discussions? Okay.
Yeah, this is strictly normally, I mean, it's not unusual to disband all of the ad hoc committees at the end of the year. And then they'll restart it as needed through the next year. So I just wanted to make that clear that it's not unusual. And in fact, they can't go on forever.
Thank you. Okay.
If I could comment also.
Sure.
The standing committees by, I think, custom, they only are allowed to run for about 1 year with a single purpose. But I don't think there's anything that says we can't start the purpose again.
Absolutely, Charlie. And we kind of had that discussion a little bit at the agenda setting meeting about the ad hoc committees and how long they've been in existence and were they needed at the moment. And, if they weren't necessarily needed at the moment and they'd been in existence for kind of a fairly lengthy period of time, then we felt it was best to disband them and then we can recreate them as needed. So certainly doesn't mean in the case of the history ad hoc, for example, that our focus and desire to do something related to the history of the agency has changed. So, and when the time's appropriate, if we need to reestablish that ad hoc, we certainly will.
And I would assume the Ellis Lake Committee would be on the same level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We talked about that one as well and kind of the current state of that and the fact that in the immediate future, there wasn't necessarily a need to meet formally in a committee fashion. But if that arises, we'll certainly reestablish that. Okay.
Thank you.
And yep, you're welcome. So any public comment on this item? Charles Sharp.
Thank you. I want to thank Director Hasty for clarifying again what's going on with the ad hoc committees. Once again, he's educating me about how the Yuba-Sutter aging works, and I appreciate that. I hope the history committee will get reassembled and move forward because I think it's an important component of the water agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, any additional public comment? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Did I already entertain a motion?
I so move. Second.
We do need to vote on it, is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, what your bylaws read is the chair makes the appointment subject to the approval of the board. So the appropriate motion would be to approve the chair's appointments.
Okay, thank you. I think we got a first and a second, but I didn't hear who it was. So as long as you know.
I had a first from Director Fuhrer and a second from Director Blazer.
Okay, great. Roll call vote then,
All right, let's
please.
start with Director Hasty,
Yes.
Director Fletcher,
Yes.
Director Bradford,
Yes.
Director Vasquez,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Fuhrer,
Yes.
and Director Blazer.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. You want to do it now? We can do it now, it's fine. Okay. We have one additional public comment that we'll go ahead and take at this time.
That was for you, Marique.
Dear board members of the Yuba Water Agency, first and foremost, I would like to express my thanks and admiration for the many ways you are helping and improving our communities at this point. Your waterfowl habitat, my son is a birder, your grants for forest management and restoration around the foothills, your support for Camptonville, your partnership with Circle, these are all aspects of you that I'm immensely grateful for. One thing keeps bothering me though, your support for the North Yuba Water District. I happen to be one of many aggrieved customers, and I'm one of the very few that keeps bothering to show up to tell you about our situation. Most people have given up trying to be heard, giving up trying to engage in the political process, given up trying to trust anyone. Not me. I see that you are decent people with a decent wish for successful and thriving communities, not only in the valley, but also uphill. So here I am again, asking for support. Reasons that were given for not delivering water to us in the last 10 years vary, but they range from simply there isn't any water, to there is no way to get it to you, to there's no way to pay for it, to the customers refuse to pay for it. The statement there isn't any water has been flatly denied by South Feather, the business partner that knows exactly how much water is available. The statement there is no way to get it to you is again contested by South Feather, who has presented an offer of mutual aid to fix any and all conveyance problems with expertise and at cost, no profit. The offer was never even put on the agenda by North Yuba. The statement there is no way to pay for it can be answered by looking at the public financial records of North Yuba Water District. North Yuba pays $100,000 a month on legal fees, almost for a year now, to respond to lawsuits that arose out of this failure to deliver water. The statement, the customers refuse to pay for it, is the most confusing. In the 2005 agreement between South Feather and North Yuba, it is agreed that 3,700 acre feet of water is available to North Yuba at no cost, and the rest of the permitted water, more than 15,000 acre feet, can be used by North Yuba for beneficial use at the cost of lost power generation. Nowhere does it state that therefore the customers are individually responsible for those costs. Yet somehow North Yuba has constructed it this way in their board documents and correspondence with customers. My question to you is, are you aware that with your vote to grant North Yuba another $100,000, they are taking your money and your interest in helping the community and ordering a report that will further take our water away from us? Their interest in selling the water rights is not clearly in our favor, is it? Their pipe design is flammable and restricts forever the water availability for these customers to 3,700 acre feet. No expansion of the system will ever be possible again. In 2004, the State Water Resources Control Board granted extension of their water rights permits only on the conditions that North Yuba would expand the customer base and the regional delivery so that all of the permitted water would be put to beneficial use before 2014.
Marique, I would ask you to please wrap it up.
I have one more alinea, thank you. And the current board does not even represent the will of the voters by a long shot. This I'll skip because you can read it. I ask you humbly to think more boldly about a possible regional solution in which South Feather, North Yuba, BVID, and the Yuba Water Agency work together to design a regional expansion of delivery in which the water rights for the full permitted 23,700 feet are put to beneficial use within the county, not in LA. The rest of my letter, you have it in front of you. So thank you for your attention and good luck.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we'll move on to manager's report.
Yeah, good morning. So this year continues to be a little bit wild and crazy when you talk about hydrology. As you know, October was record wet. November was near record dry, December was near record wet, and January is turning out to be very dry. We got a couple inches of precip early in the month, but the 10-day forecast has nothing in the forecast, and we're at the 18th, so it looks like January is going to be very, very dry. So we'll see what happens February through April. But the good news is we're in fairly good shape. New Bullards Bar is at 106% of normal year to date. Our snowpack is around 130%. We are operating in full conservation mode, meaning we're trying to keep as much water in New Bullards Bar as possible. And we are seeing runoff from the low elevation snow we had at the end of December. So we're in decent shape, but we'll see what the rest of the water year will bring. As far as power system revenue goes, the revenue for December totaled 1.8 million, and we generated approximately 26,000 megawatt hours during the month. And due to the drought conditions, and actually it's due to the conservation conditions where we're trying to keep as much water in New Bullards Bar as possible, that 26,000 megawatt hours was significantly below our estimated forecast of 48,000 megawatt hours. The Cal ISO average day ahead energy price for December was $62 per megawatt hour, with the high being around 120 and the low being about 24. And earnings for Yuba per megawatt hour of generation was a little more than $69 per megawatt hour. The Colgate 1 annual outage is underway and continuing. All things are going well there. We plan to bring the unit back by the end of next week. We're basically operating in conservation mode where we have 280 CFS going through Narrows 1 and 300 CFS going through Narrows 2. As far as engineering goes, on December 14th, we issued a notice of completion for the New Bullards Bar Dam spillway repair project. This work involved repairing an area of delaminated concrete within the chute of New Bullards Bar spillway, which included demolition of concrete, installation of new reinforcement, and replacement of structural concrete. Following the Oroville spillway failure, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and California Division Safety of Dams required all dam owners to conduct a detailed spillway inspection. And as a result of this inspection, consultation with regulators and subject matter experts, a relatively small area of our spillway was repaired. It was about 4 feet wide by about 106 feet long. So that work is complete. And on January 4th, we issued a notice of completion for the Colgate Bulkhead Gate project. The work involved manufacturing 2 new bulkhead gates for the Colgate powerhouse. And basically, since we've had the facility, we've had 2 gates, and we can block off water flow into 1 unit, but you need 4 gates to block off water flow to both units. So we basically duplicated the 2 gates we had and had 2 new gates constructed. So now we have 4 gates, and we can block off the river flow from both units at the same time. So that project was completed and as planned. So like I said, drought conditions continue, although we do have a good snowpack and good reservoir elevation. We'll see what the remainder of the year brings. We're at a point where the water year could trend great. Like 2011, we had a dry spell in January, just like we're having this year, and it was one of the best years we've ever had. But other years like 2013 and 14, we have a dry January and then it stays dry. So we'll see what happens there. The AR reconnaissance flights will continue. That's in our partnerships with Scripps. Human resources update. The agency has posted positions for the electrical technician, supervising electrical technician, and senior hydro engineer. And we'll be working on these recruitments over the next couple months. Interviews will start for human resources manager. Operator Mike Buck has retired from the agency effective January 3rd. And we want to thank Mike for his dedication to the agency. Last Monday, Governor Newsom released his January proposal for the state budget. As part of the overall proposed $286 billion state budget, the administration is putting forward new spending across a variety of programs. Of most direct interest to the agency are proposals titled Drought Resilience and Response, Clean Energy Investments, and Wildfire and Forest Resilience Package. Many of these proposals build on items included in last year's budget. Agency staff and consultants are watching developments closely and will be engaging to ensure that our agency priorities are well positioned for any funding that might become available through this year's state budget. Joanna Lassard did an interview with Capital Public Radio about how we use the California Vegetation Treatment Program with our Healthy Forest Project That's the CAL FIRE grant in the foothills. And this is a new, basically a CEQA streamlining. And we are one of the first entities to use this, and we use it on a fairly large scale, used it for nearly all of the approximately 5,000 acre projects. So people are asking us, how did it go? Was it beneficial to you? I think there's questions out there whether they continue that program or change or revise it, but it worked well for us. We actually kind of had the project that was perfect for this CEQA streamlining. And that story should air this week. The Appeal Democrat covered the change of our board leadership that took place at the last meeting. The Prospect magazine will feature a profile of government agencies in February and are doing a piece about us and our history and the impact we have on the community. And Ryan has been very busy making the rounds this month, talking about the 25th anniversary of the 97 floods and all the good work that's been done since. In the last couple of weeks, he has spoken to the South Yuba Rotary, the Marysville Rotary, Wheatland City Council, and done interviews with David Briggs on Country 103 and Willie B on KUBA. He also has presentations scheduled for the Marysville City Council, Marysville Kiwanis, and a community spotlight interview with 93Q later this month. Lastly, the groundbreaking that had been scheduled for this Saturday to celebrate the Wheatland water meter project has just been postponed again, unfortunately. And upcoming meetings, February 1st, we have a regular board meeting and an ABP meeting. And this is a reminder to all board members to watch for additional committee meetings in the near future as a result of today's appointments. Thanks.
Thanks, Willie. Any questions from board members? Okay, we'll move on to board member reports. Charlie, we'll start with you.
First, I have a very bad cold, and that's why I didn't want to contaminate anybody. I am very interested in trying to educate the board. In 2025, we renew the accord, and the state always wants more of our water, and we are working to try to find more fish instead of giving them water. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Director Vasquez, nothing? Don?
Well, it's 2022. Looks like we have a lot of challenges and decisions to make, which I don't think is really out of the ordinary. Maybe we'll have more than usual, but it's really nice to have such a good team that's going to take these on. So here we go. Thanks.
Is that nothing? Okay, Brent, anything?
No report.
Okay, Randy?
Charlie, thank you very much for not bringing your cold in here or a flu or any of those viruses. So appreciate, that's the advantage of having Zoom meetings really like that. Thanks again, Charlie.
I don't have anything today. So with that, we will wrap up the meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Excuse me, before you do the meeting, I thought there was an item for the budget committee. And then I thought we had a budget meeting. I saw it was on the agenda.
I don't think so.
There was something on the consent agenda related to budgetary items, but I think the next ABP meeting is the 1st, right?
Yeah. Very good. Okay, I didn't realize on the consent agenda. Very good, thank you.
No problem. Did you have anything on that you want to talk about, Charlie?
No, I just got all prepared for it, but I'll save it till the 1st.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.